If you think being a great game master means spending 5 hours prepping for every session, I'm about to save you a whole lot of time, because some of the best GMs I know aren't the ones doing the most prep. They're the ones doing prep efficiently. So today, we're going to talk about the lazy GM mindset and how busy adults can run amazing games without turning GMing into a second job. Hi, my name is Brian. I'm the host of the Bearded Nerd podcast, where I help new players and game masters learn, play, and grow their love for tabletop RPGs. One of the biggest reasons people never start GMing or they quit after a few sessions is because they think they don't have enough time. And honestly, I totally understand. Many of us have full-time jobs, families, responsibilities, and limited hobby time. We love the hobby, but we can't spend 10 hours a week prepping for it. The good news is, though, you don't need to. We're going to talk about this lazy GM mindset, and we're going to basically create a system on what to focus on and what actually matters. So if you haven't already, go ahead and hit subscribe to the podcast, and let's dive into this episode of the Bearded Nerd podcast. First and foremost, what is the lazy GM mindset? I want to clear this up really quick. The lazy GM mindset does not mean you're not preparing, that you're making everything up, and that you don't care about quality. The lazy GM mindset means that preparing only things that matter should be your only focus. That's it. A lazy GM isn't trying to do less work. They're trying to just eliminate unnecessary work. And oftentimes, those who are not quote unquote lazy GMs find themselves in the biggest prep trap. Oftentimes, these GMs prepare things that players will never see. They'll write 20 pages of history. They will bust out an entire continent with its money and currency system. They have detailed economies, like I said earlier, and will have every little homebrew thing that supports a 10-session story arc. But then players spend the evening talking to the random shopkeeper. That problem isn't necessarily a problem in the big scheme, but that GM may view it that way. And it isn't about effort. Obviously, we see the love that GMs have for their game. Prep, though, should honestly just support play. It does not exist for its own sake. If you want to prep things that your players won't see, that's fine, but know that you are not spending time effectively. So instead, the lazy GM should prep for situations and not stories. And it might seem kind of obvious, but in my opinion, and this honestly should be the most important lesson in this entire episode, don't prepare the what happens. You should prepare what is happening. What do I mean? Instead of planning, the players will discover the cult, you should prepare the cult is kidnapping villagers. Those are two distinct things. When you prepare the players will discover the cult, you are essentially hoping that the players will find this cult out, and you are hoping that they will follow the breadcrumbs that you've laid, versus the cult is kidnapping the villagers. This sentence, or this statement rather, puts the cult in front of the players. You are giving the players direction. Now, if they choose to go that route, great, you have something there. If they don't choose to go that route, that's okay. But the world will move regardless of the player choices, and you don't have to predict their actions. But when you set the plate in front of them, so to speak, they're going to either eat what's on the plate or they're going to disregard it completely. Now, you might say, well, Brian, that doesn't necessarily answer my question or doesn't resolve my problem. This is where you go into the 80-20 rule. If 80% of the time the players are going to be focusing on XYZ, prep for that. The other 20% doesn't necessarily matter. Another way you can think about it is, what 20% of your prep creates 80% of the fun? Most of the time, the NPCs, the interesting problems and plot hooks, anything that has a clear stake, and pretty much every strong session opening is what your players are going to have fun with. They are not going to worry about the perfect detailed map. They may appreciate it later or take time separately to appreciate it. They may like the detailed timelines and the complex lore documents that you give each player. But you should focus your energy where players actually interact. I like giving my players lore documents. It's fun because I am a former historian. But my players don't necessarily care. They want to know how that impacts their fun and how it impacts them playing in the world. So instead, I focus on 5 things, especially when I only have about 30 minutes or so. I prepare a strong opening scene because it's something that immediately hooks the players. I have or create 3 likely encounters. Whether it's combat or social or exploration or some combination, I have those 3 encounters ready to go so that if my players do X, it's there. If they do Y, then I have a response for it. 3, I have those important NPCs, right? What do those NPCs want? What's their role? And what's their name? I give them maybe an accent or something just to differentiate them, but I keep it simple. Then I prep the current problem. That's number 4. What's happening in the world? What's happening in this part of the world? That makes a huge difference because it influences number 1. And then it influences number 2 and so on and so forth. And then the consequences, obviously. You can't have a session without some sort of consequences, whether good, bad, or neutral, right? What changes if the players do nothing? That's honestly enough for most sessions. All those things, those 5, are perfect scenarios for your sessions. Now, you could write about a sentence or 2 per topic, right? For a strong opening scene, for 3 likely encounters, important NPCs, current problems, and consequences. You could do that. It will save you a lot of time if you write 1 to 3 sentences, but obviously you can go into more detail. It's dependent upon your time. I personally like to be cognizant of my time. So what I also like to do is reuse content that I've created. If a particular piece of content, whether it is a roll table, whether it is a NPC, whatever it may be, if it can't have multiple purposes or uses, I don't even bother with it. Because there used to be a pressure to invent everything. And you really don't have to. Reuse NPCs and just rename them. Reuse locations, plot hooks. Reuse, encounter ideas. Who cares? Players experience your world over months. They're not comparing notes against your prep folder or your GM binder. Reusing is efficient. It's not lazy. And then lastly, what I really like to make sure I do is I trust my players. That kind of sounds silly, but it's true. Being a lazy GM, you have to trust your players. You have to make sure that you're not in the mindset of, I need to entertain everyone every second of the game. You don't need to carry the entire game. Let the players contribute. Let the players ask questions. Let the players make plans, create moments, and just sit back. Let the table create organic experiences together. It's not the GM's responsibility completely. And obviously, there's going to be times where you literally do not have time. You ran late from work, you started your day off kind of on the wrong foot. You came back home late. The family is needing your attention, and game night is tomorrow, right? Some weeks are going to be hard and life gets busy, but don't cancel just because prep isn't perfect. Just run a smaller session. Maybe just focus on role play during that session. Maybe use an encounter that you've prepared way back when or that you wanted to use. Maybe revisit a story thread that you haven't pursued. Maybe focus on character development, downtime activities. Talk to your players, though. That type of communication is really important, because if you say, hey, table, or hey, players, or whatever you call your players and your friends, hey, y'all, I didn't really have time to prep the thing that I wanted to do. Could we do this instead? Or you can say, hey, life was busy. Do you mind if we just focus on downtime activities, and then we're going to really focus on role play? Okay, cool. That consistency beats perfection every day. Players would rather play every week than have a once a month perfect session, because at the end of the day, this is the hobby we want to partake in. So things I want to make sure you avoid. Don't prep entire campaigns. Not necessary. You don't even know where the campaign's going to go. Don't prep worlds that nobody will see. Unless you like world building itself, don't even worry about it. Definitely do not write novels. This is not a book. This is an adventure. You have to leave it open-ended. And stop chasing perfection. Players remember moments. They don't remember all the blood, sweat, and tears, and they don't even know the blood, sweat, and tears that you poured into it. So give yourself a break. If you're a busy adult trying to run great games, just remember you don't need more time necessarily. You just need to better focus. Prep the situations, the problems, the goals of those NPCs, and their consequences. And then let the table do the rest. Sit back, relax. The goal isn't to become the hardest working GM. You're not going to get an award for that. It is to become the most effective one. You will reward yourself with time back. And if this episode helped you rethink prep and reduce some of those GM stress, share it with a friend. Share it with a GM who feels overwhelmed by prep. And if you are the GM that's overwhelmed by prep and you feel like you need a little bit more one-on-one help, be sure to look at the show notes for resources and guides and workshops. Until next time, y'all, prep less, play more, and as always, folks, keep gaming.